Start recording. Hello everybody, this is the Adafruit CircuitPython Weekly for October 29th, 2018. I'm Scott and I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit Industries, which is Adafruit Industries is a hobby electronics manufacturer based in New York, led by a woman, which is awesome. CircuitPython is a version of Python that's designed to run on small, itty-bitty computers called microcontrollers that are very inexpensive. So you can buy a full computer for $20 and run Python on it, all self-contained, which is really neat. It's great for beginners. This is our weekly meeting that we do every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what that is UTC. And this is a meeting where all of the folks that are working on CircuitPython, whether they're doing projects or core code, get together to talk about what they've been doing and discuss things that have come up in the last week. The meeting is open to everybody, so if you'd like to join, you can join us on the Adafruit Discord, which is adafru.it/Discord. That'll get you on there. Come join us. We're there in the text channel all week, and then on Mondays we do this voice meeting, and everybody is welcome to attend. The meeting is split into 4 parts. We start with a state of CircuitPython plus libraries, and then we'll go into Hug Reports, which is a chance to say thank you to folks for the work that they've been doing in the last week. We do that as a round robin, so I'll start, and then I'll go down the list of folks in the voice channel, and we'll talk about that. If you are lurking or text only, just let me know, and I'm happy to read out things or skip over you when we do the round robin. And then we'll do a status update section where we talk briefly about what we've been working on and what we're working on in the coming week. After that portion of it, we'll go into the weeds, which is just an open-ended discussion section. The way we've been doing is that if you have a topic you'd like to discuss in the weeds, just put it in the CircuitPython text chat. We'll pick it up, we'll add it to the notes, and we'll go through all of the things that came up in the earlier parts of the meeting at the end. This meeting is recorded, so if you are in the voice channel, beware that you will be recorded, or I am recording on my end. The videos get posted both on diode.zone, which is a PeerTube instance, and then also on the Adafruit YouTube, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. Check out for a playlist there, and you can see all of the back catalog of all of our meetings. We have a repository full of the notes as well. So during the meeting, we keep track of notes along with time codes for when all of those different sections happen so that you can skip around. So check out the notes for that as well. And I think that's it. With that, let's get going. First and foremost, we start with the state of CircuitPython plus the libraries. I'll take a time code so people can skip here. First, I just want to talk overall. We've had, these are kind of numbers to gauge the health of the project. We had 31 pull requests merged overall from 17 different authors, which is a lot, which is awesome. Shout outs to Joshua Lowe 1002, Sabas 1080, Mick Hobby, Clara.sh, Sanuros, for being new contributors. Sorry, I'm reading through the list and skipping people who I recognize. And then we also had 7 reviewers. As always, reviewing is a really, really good way to get to contribute. It involves looking over the code and seeing if there's any changes that can be made to the code, and then also just testing it on devices if you have that ability. Similarly for issues, so issues are feature requests or bug reports. You can go on there and verify that issues still happen for you or reproduce them yourself. And in the last week, as of last night, we had 6 closed issues by 5 people and 10 opened by 6 people. So we're gaining issues, but having a good number of people involved, which is awesome. In this overall section, I used to do this like overview of like 2 sentences of where we are with CircuitPython, and I would like bury it in the beginning, but I thought it should be closer to the start. So If I had to summarize where we're at with CircuitPython, is that we're still in the early stages of 4.0, but we are very much honing in on the things that will make 4.0 awesome and 4.0e. Dan is working on Bluetooth, and I'm doing some USB restructuring, which should be really cool. Of course, that's not everything that's going into it, but I feel like we're really targeting the core of what will make 4.0 right now, which is very exciting. So hopefully we'll get another alpha out soon, and 3x has been super stable, so it's all good there. So that's, if I had to summarize overall, that's what I would say for the state of CircuitPython. Now I'll go into a little bit more kind of statistic details around the core development of CircuitPython, and then Kattni will cover the library side. So core-wise, we had 12 pull requests merged from 10 different authors, which again is awesome. I think a number of those were translation-based, which the translation work is really neat, and very much another very cool thing about 4.0 will be that we support other languages. 2 reviewers, Dan and myself, so thank you, Dan. And then 4 open pull requests. So if you want to become a reviewer, check the notes for the 4 pull requests we have open. That's actually a lot lower than I think it's been in the past, so good job everybody on that. Issues wise, we closed 2 by 2 people, but we opened 9 by 5 people, so I guess we're the reason we gained issues. And that's a total of 64 open issues. Check out the notes for full details on that. Download stats for 4.0 Alpha 2, we've had 202 total downloads, with a very typical board spread, and language-wise, which I think is more interesting for 4x, we've had a lot of English, and then also a number of French and German, and a few Spanish. So again, check out the notes for all the details there. On 303, which is our latest stable, we're up to 2,389 total downloads. So that is great too. Okay, with that, I will hand it over to Kattni for library stuff.
Thank you. So quickly, if you're looking for any last-minute Hacktoberfest issues, check out the CircuitPython library tracking issue, which is linked in the notes, and I will link in the chat in a minute here. A number of the repo level issues are things that can be fixed with a simple PR, so take a look at that. If you have any questions, ping me. And thank you to everyone who's already participated in Hacktoberfest. We really appreciate your involvement. It's been amazing to have so many new contributors join us, get little stuff taken care of, because some of that is some of the most important stuff that needs to be fixed. So thank you all very much for that. So in the library setup here, we had 19 pull requests merged, which is amazing, by 7 authors. Nobody new this time, but thank you to everyone who did write up some pull requests for us. We had 6 reviewers, which is amazing. We don't normally have that many, so that's really great that we're getting more people involved in reviewing, because that's a super important part of it. We currently have 10 open pull requests. A couple of them are new, and a few of them are still ones that are just long-term processes. So that's where we're at with that. Feel free to take a look at some of them, see if any of them are things you can help out with reviewing, if that's something you're interested in. As for issues, you were definitely the reason why we were increased, as we had 4 issues closed by 4 people, which is fantastic, and 1 opened by 1 person. So we have 64 total open issues. Take a look at that list, see if there's anything on there that is something you'd be interested in fixing up, if that's, like I said, if that's something you're interested in. And the notes don't have all of the repo level issues listed out. The library tracking issue does. So if you are looking for something simple to fix, or just interested in getting started or helping out, there's a lot of issues there that are beginner level stuff that you can pretty easily get started with, and we're absolutely happy to help you. So check that out. And that's where we are with the libraries.
Awesome. Thank you, Kattni, and great job on the issues. Thank you for making it not terrible based on what the core has had issues-wise.
Yeah, that's our goal.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's move on. We did get started kind of late, so I'm trying not to dilly-dally too much. Next up is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance for everybody who's in the voice chat, and if you're actually not able to make the meeting, you can always let us know, and we'll read it out as well. So these are thank yous for the work that people have been doing over the course of the last week, or even longer if you haven't had a chance to say thank you in a longer amount of time. So I will start, and then we'll do a round robin based on the list, which is alphabetical in the voice chat. So I will begin. First and foremost, I wanted to say thanks to Dan for the Swift ban hammer in Discord after, and also thank you to Grays for pinging. I believe it was community helpers asking for the Swift ban. There was some really terrible person who came in, and we got the ban hammer down on them nice and quick, which is good. So just a reminder to everybody, if you do see stuff, please ping community helpers, and we'll get it cleaned up pretty quick. So that's a Discord thing. Thank you to Sedacious for the CP32M4 work. It's an idea that Sedacious and I came up with for having a SAMD51 in the footprint of an ESP32 module. Because there's a lot of boards that are designed for ESP32, but we'd love it if they had USB instead. So I'm very excited to see, to be able to take some of the boards I have with ESPs and put SAMD51s on instead, which would be really cool. Third, I wanted to say thank you to Summersoft for all of the AdaBot work that you've been doing. It's awesome, and I feel like you're the owner of AdaBot at this point, which is great. Happy to see that evolve and become more and more useful. I want to say thank you to Lady Ada, even though she's not in the list of people, just for all of the audio I/O testing that happened yesterday. Check out the Adafruit Twitter feed for a video of the upcoming Trellis Express doing some really cool audio stuff. And part of the reason that we did have more issues is there's a number of issues that Lady Ada filed up to improve the audio I/O stuff. So if you are interested in kind of digging into core work, check those out. Some of those aren't too bad. And if you need help, you're always welcome to reach out to Dan or I to get going on internal stuff. So more help on the core would be great, so that we're not the ones always adding issues to the issue pile for CircuitPython on the whole. And with that, I will read off Brennan, because Brennan is text only. But Brennan, feel free to repost it as I do this in the text chat. So Brennan says, hug report to Kattni Carter and Tan Newt for the review on the Care LCD library. Thank you, Brennan. And I guess I was a spoiler by reading it off early. I saw it in the notes. If anybody wonders how I knew that before it showed up, it's in the notes first. Okay, Carter.
Group hug this week, and another specific one to Dan for continuing to help with some various Windows drivers related oddities that are showing up in the forums. Some of them CP related, some of them not.
Yeah, Dan is the expert on that now, I think.
Indeed.
Cool, thanks, Carter. Charles.
Another great group hug for some stuff that I picked up on the MCP. What is it? The 23017, because I was having trouble trying to read the bit registers all at once, and I found it finally. Somebody pointed me to the place in the repo. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Charles. Okay, Dan.
I want to thank Scott for. He's like 3 levels deep now. He was working on USB MIDI, and then he decided he needed to improve USB, so he decided to try the tiny USB library, which Tack, who's working with us, wrote a while ago, and he started to work on that, and now he's another level deep working on SPI and QSPI related to that. And thank him for taking the leap for doing all this stuff, which I thought we wouldn't get to for a long time. So
yeah.
It's a big cleanup, and it'll get us less dependent on ASF4, which would be great. We might be, at some point, we might be able to get rid of ASF4, because this is the main thing that we really depend on ASF4 is USB support right now.
Yes. Yeah, and I love the idea of like having the USB stuff be shared across all of the ports. Just makes everything so much easier. So I'm excited about it too.
That's very good. And I want to thank Carter and Jerry, especially in the past, like over the past week in various ways. They've just been really responsive to new people in the forum. I mean, in the forum, not the forum, in the CircuitPython channel. We have a lot of people asking for help, and they've been very helpful to them. So thank you for continuing to do real-time support.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Deshipu. Group hug. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Drew.
Yeah. Thanks to you and Lady Ada for looking at a pull request I've been working on for I2C support on the BeagleBone. So he had some helpful insights for me in there.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. All right, Jerry.
Yeah, thanks to Brent R for again his continued support and new work on the LoRaWAN support for the Arduino side, which has been a big help for me, at least understanding how it works and getting ready to try and support it. And then and again, also a shout out to Carter for his awesome support on the forum and channels this week.
Great, thanks, Jerry. All right, Kattni.
All right, so thanks to Summersoft with some help with a code issue I was having this weekend. Saved me so much time heading down entirely the wrong path, and came up with a very simple, elegant solution, and I really appreciate that. Thanks to Carter for explaining my own code to me. I wrote something that worked, and I had no idea why it worked. It was great that it worked, and that it didn't take me hours to figure out. However, it took longer for me to understand why it worked than it actually did for me to write it. Thanks to Brennan for continuing to be there for PyPI, Raspberry Python weirdness, and also again to Summersoft for all the Adabot work and the new CircuitPython libraries list. Thank you for getting that in so quickly. That was a request from someone else, and that got taken care of super fast and very well done. So thank you very much for that.
Totally. All right, Nicholas and Tollery. You around? I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear him?
No.
I can see you going green, but I cannot hear you.
No.
Weird. All right, we can come back to you if you want to mess around with it. All right. Yeah, we'll keep going. No worries. I want to circle back to Dave. Let me know if you are lurking or not too, and we'll circle back to you as well. And SDW is lurking. Already said so. So Sedacious. Stuff and notes. Okay, Sedacious says, thank you to Kattni for making an introduction that has borne some tasty, tasty fruit. Thanks to Deshipu for helping me source and debug some super small TFTs. And lastly, thank you to Seagrover for taking time on a Sunday to help me improve my shade tree pixie wrangling into something approaching real engineering. Awesome. Cool. And Dave's trying to track down a coworker. I believe is a coworker. And then Summersoft, go ahead and paste away and I'll read off you as well. Summersoft says, thanks to Carter for finding some things I missed in Cookie Cutter. And thank you to MakerCats, aka Sabas 1080, for porting CircuitPython to their Meow Meow board and to Arduino MKR 1300. And Group Hug for all the things my Monday brain isn't compiling. And I think I heard Entol, so go ahead, Entol. Entol. I heard you briefly, I think. Now you're not going. If you're using it in the browser, then I always have better luck with the standalone because it just brings Chrome with it, basically. Computers suck. You can type in too if you like, and I'll read it off. Did we gain anybody else? Josh, do you want to go? Josh says, thanks to Lady Ada for the mention of edgy blocks in the new Python video series, and to Dan H for helping me merge my first CircuitPython PR. Yay! Should have like celebration here. I love the ta-da emoji. Ta-da! Entol says, I should take a time code. 2039. Time codes are hard. My brain just goes to other things. Entol says, group hug for all, and 2 thanks to Katney from months ago for help with language/terminology help. Awesome. And I don't think, Dave, do you have any? Now I hear you, Nicholas. It just echoes back. I don't hear your voice. Dave is typing. Okay, he's just trying to track somebody else down. Okay, let's go on to status updates. Status updates is a chance for everybody to talk a little bit about what they're working on, and what they, both in terms of like what they have done in what you've done in like the last week, and then also kind of what you're planning on doing in the coming week. And this is really good to just make sure that everybody knows what everybody else is doing, but also you can share tips and tricks about like, oh, you're doing this thing, take a look at this other thing, and kind of like handing off topics and knowledge that way. So it's a very typical software engineering thing. So, but I find it useful, and I hope you do too. So I will start after I take a time code. As Dan alluded to, I am 3 levels deep on USB refactoring. The original goal was to get MIDI working on the SAMD because we do have this new trellis board coming and we want to be able to do US MIDI. I spent a few days and got the descriptors working with the USB descriptors library. And then I got to the point where I basically needed to write the low-level MIDI layer above the USB layer. And I was digging into the ASF4 stuff, and I just really hated it. So I decided to switch to Tiny USB, which I like a lot more because it's open source, and TAC has done a great job structuring it and has all the nice structs and everything. It's just much better written. So and this is something we kind of kicked around the idea of switching to at some point. And I was just like, if I'm doing all this MIDI work, like the next thing I'm gonna have to do after I get SAMD working is getting it working in NRF, which meant like I might as well just, instead of doing the extra work of doing MIDI in 2 places, I was like, I'll just do the extra work to move SAMD over to Tiny USB. And a cool, really awesome consequence of that is that basically all of the USB stuff and how the supervisor interacts with it, so managing like reading and writing files and auto reloading, like once you have the USB working on a board, you'll be able to get REPL, and then once you have Flash working on the board, you'll be able to get the mass storage really easily. So the hope is that we'll start to see an even broader proliferation of CircuitPython support that's at least at a base level of the workflow. So I got CDC working on the SAMD port, SAMD 51 side of things, so I know it's possible and I know it works, which is really cool. And so I'm going to continue. I wanted to, there's the external SPI flash support in NRF is not that great, and it's much better in SAMD, so that's why I chose to factor that out as well. So it just unifies all that, which is super cool. So I got the proof of concept going. If you want links to where I'm doing that code, let me know. But this week I will continue to reorganize. I basically move stuff apart and reorganizing it. So that's what I'm doing. I don't think that there's anything else. It's just, yeah, I'm deep in the USB weeds. But we'll have an open source USB stack for all of these, for the microcontrollers we support in the future, which will be awesome. Okay, enough rambling from me. I will read what Brennan says. Brennan says, testing and some tweaks for character LCD libraries. Testing keypad, more to come. And then writing a guide up for a basic foot switch plus NeoTrellis HID project. So USB-based stuff as well. And Carter.
Yeah, working on a couple of barometric sensors. One of them is kind of an older one that fell through the cracks that I came across, an MPL 115A2, which of course means a lot. But it's I think it's so old it's got a 3-digit PID. But that was pretty simple, and there's a PR version out there for review from librarians that no one's touched yet. So if people want to take a look at that, please do. And the other one that's in the works is the brand new one that's in the shop, that BMP 388. And I've got that working on I2C right now and just kind of continuing to refine it. And we'll see what happens with that. It should be out soon, weekish.
Awesome. Sounds good, Carter. Thank you for all your library work and your support work. It's great. Okay, C. Grover, do you have hug reports and status updates?
Yeah, I just got out of a meeting with a commercial video crew where I used my latest CircuitPython UFO controller. So the UFO controller, it's just a lighting controller, but it's going to be used for a prop in a film. And I just wanted to give a hug report to the entire CircuitPython team for producing a product that is good enough for commercial application. And it's the first, you know, I do a lot of hobby stuff, right? And I do a lot of things for myself, Christmas lights and music synthesizers and all that kind of stuff. But I've never done anything commercial with CircuitPython, and it just worked out of the box. And I'm just amazed with the quality of the animations I was able to produce, the speed with the M4, Itsy Bitsy M4. And everything just worked. And I'm even, you know, and I'm running the most recent version of 3. So a big group hug to the team and the efforts that are going into that. And then I'm excited about what you're doing, Scott, in the MIDI and the USB realm, as you know. So that'll tie into my upcoming projects that I hope to get back to more of the music synthesis stuff. So anyway, big thanks. And those are my projects.
Great. And thank you for the links on the MIDI stuff too.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it totally was. That's one thing I want to do with the USB stuff, is I want to make USB produce an identical stream to what the UART produces, so that code can just, the MIDI like message code can just work.
Yeah, for me, the biggest discovery was, or realization was, that MIDI is just a stack. And when you think about it in terms of a communication stack like that, it just gets a lot easier to conceptualize and use.
Right, right. Cool.
So I'm glad that was helpful.
Yeah, it was. Totally. I just let myself get distracted.
Well, I completely understand that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, C. Grover. Charles.
Speaking of which, Speaking of which, my electronic ocarina now has MIDI coming out of it.
Oh, cool.
I used the Bus.io serial to get the serial interface. And I got it at 31250. And it worked on the Metro M0 and M4.
Great.
So that's where I am, and I'm sort of happy to hear that you are trying to get the USB MIDI working. And by the way, making them look the same is exactly a good idea. Make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I want to do that for BLE as well.
No, good luck.
Thanks. All right, Dan.
I spent a lot of time reading about BLE and watching videos, just trying to absorb it all in preparation for working on our whatever BLE support we're going to add to 4.0. And the next step is to hopefully sometime this week look at Arturo's pull request. And then the other minor thing that I did is that there was some problems with AMPI. The release that was on PyPy was out of date, and the version number, there was some version number skew, so I automated PyPy in Travis, and which it should have been done a long time ago.
Right.
That's all. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. All of that support stuff is super helpful, and I'm excited to see what Bluetooth ends up to be. All right, Dave, do you have any status updates? I know you've been trying to hunt somebody else down. All right, Deshipu, let's go to you. No worries, Dave. He says he's AFK.
Okay, sorry. So I've been, for the last week, I've been on the German PyCon.de conference. And I had a lightning talk about the Pew Pew boards, and there was a huge interest in that. I think I got the Berlin Pi Ladies to at least they want to run workshops with that, so that's really exciting. And from bad news, when I was going back from the conference, my laptop got broken. Now I'm without a laptop, I guess, until I get a replacement for it. So probably for the next week, I'm not going to be active.
Well, take it as a vacation. All right. Thanks for all your work and outreach that you do, Deshipu. It's awesome. Okay, Drew.
Yeah, I've been working on adding I2C support for the BeagleBone Black and Blinka, and have been mostly working. One of the issues was about the Adafruit bus device library does a write to see if a device is there. That does not does a empty byte write to an I2C address, and that does not work with the I2C driver that's on the BeagleBone. So switching that to a read now. So almost have that finished. So hopefully that will get around that and then work on different platforms. And thanks for you and Lady Ada pointing out that doing a write of a non-zero value is probably not a good idea.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for working on that. Okay, Jerry.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I spent a lot of time this week playing with this LoRaWAN stuff on the Arduino side, just trying to understand the basics of how things work, and been a lot of fun, but not necessarily CircuitPython related, but hopefully leading up to porting it over, which I've been saying for weeks, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, no worries. I've been saying I'd get back to display IO for weeks.
And but it's been working great, a lot of fun. And then I tried to put a quick fix in. There was some discussion. We'll follow up in the weeds about the NeoPixel stuff, but it needs a little more work. And similarly, there was a thing came up about the bitmap font that was just an annoying fix that needed to be put in that went in to allow it to import ustruct or struct.
Right.
And then there was this thing come up recently. It's been out there for a while. An issue with the DHT that somebody had with this Wemos D1, which is an ESP8266 clone. And I've just been trying to follow up and understand. It looks like it's actually related to MicroPython 1.9.4. So, but trying to understand why it doesn't work on this, but see if there's anything we can do. I don't know. It looks like it's related to that particular board, so it may not be a lot of effort. We'll see. And I'm going to be away doing some serious grandparent duty this weekend, so maybe do some reading, but not a lot of hardware.
That sounds like fun, though.
It will be.
Awesome. Thanks as always, Jerry. All right, Josh. Josh says, "You're right. Yeah, you must be text only." This week I've been mostly busy at Mozilla Festival, which had lots of workshops using microbit, circuit playgrounds, and other cool stuff, and an amazing DIY music workshop by Antol. But I did manage to add Kattni's Circuit Playground library in EduBlocks, and I hope that when the editor is released, people will add blocks for CircuitPython libraries. We've also got an advanced section for things that don't fit into their own category, like CPU temperature, and I've been adding to that too. I've also been writing a Welcome to EduBlocks for CircuitPython guide on the Learn portal with some information and demos people can read and try out. I've attached a GIF to show the library add-on. So if I hover over it, I think it runs. Oh, yeah, there it goes. Whoop. For those of you watching the recording. For those of you in the chat, you just hover over the GIF and it plays, I believe. Although it might be a Nitro thing. Okay, thanks, Josh. Let's go on to Kattni.
It's actually just playing for me, so.
Oh, maybe it just had to load for me.
So let's see. This past week, I updated the weekly newsletter template with more library goodness. We've added a Blink image that PT made for us, where Blink is reading a book because it's a library thing. Thanks to, or works with Summersoft to get the CircuitPython library list page set up. That was a request from PT. He wanted to just have a page that has a link to all the libraries and a list of them. And Summersoft got that going incredibly quickly. Adabot is going to generate it, and once we've got Adabot running nightly, it will generate that list and push it to the bundle repo, and so that will just exist, and we will always have an updated list. I finished up the guide updates for the basic character LCD. Brennan actually just finished testing with that, and I need to finalize it. There's a PR outstanding to update the simple test that Brennan updated for me, so I need to do that. I finished most of the Matrix keypad guide. I'm waiting on final testing for that, and then that should be ready for review. This past weekend, I helped out JP with some guide code. Indirectly, that's what Summersoft helped with, so thank you. Next up, today, I'm going to update the library tracking issue. I want to go through all the open pull requests on the libraries, which is not a huge deal. There's not that many, but I want to go through all of them. That's mostly to make sure I haven't missed any Hacktoberfest PRs since the month is almost over. I need to merge the Brennan's PR that I just mentioned, and finish up the two guides I just talked about, and then we're moving on to alternate form factors of character LCD. That's the next set of things that's up for guide updates. So the I2 CSPI backpack is next. I also may want to go through, and I might want help with this if anyone is interested in helping, and put in some more issues on libraries for some of the repo level stuff that Adabot finds. The ones that are super easy PR fixes, I think, should go in as issues, because I don't think everyone realizes that even though the library tracking issue exists, they don't know to actually go through and say, oh, if Adabot said this thing is needed, I can actually do that, because it doesn't say, hey, this one's easy. So I thought actually getting that out there might help, since the Hacktoberfest stuff really worked, and we've got some people who are involved who are still doing beginner level issues, that if we got some more beginner level issues posted, we might get some more stuff done.
Right.
So that is also on my radar to do over the course of this week.
Awesome. Lots of good library work.
Yeah, that's the goal. working through it all and making them better.
I think you're nailing it, so it's good. Okay, Antol has typed in. Antol says, my update. Spent last weekend at MozFest here in London and met plenty of teachers who said they were really looking forward to the next release of Mu. Having teachers breathing down your neck, no matter how polite they are, they may seem at first, is never a good situation to be in, so says the former teacher. Ergo, to avoid an after-school detention or minus 9,000 house points, I'm going to spend all day Thursday and Friday doing Mu issue triage and reviewing PRs and prep for a 1.1 release. Would love to know more about multi-language support in CircuitPython so I can mirror this in Mu. Example, in Spanish Mu, the tooltips from CircuitPython are in Spanish. Also, Tana, you asked about PyCon Hatchery, but not heard anything more on that front. I'm looking forward to seeing folks at PyCon. Hurrah! Keep up the great work, folks. I wish I had more time to deep dive into CircuitPython things. Yeah, I haven't thought any more about PyCon Hatchery. But for those of you who didn't realize it, PyCon US in Cleveland next spring, we're all planning on being there. So if you want to plan your travel, please do, and we'd love to see you. And Dole says, yeah, was the right answer. Okay, great. I'm glad I had the right answer. So SDW is lurking, and I'll read off Sedacious. It says, Sedacious was able to get a prototype animations working on one of my TFTs, and with Deshipu's help, got another smaller TFT working with after some library tweaking. A-Sprite has been great for pixel art and animations, well worth the price. That's spelled ASEPRITE. A very cool program, which is neat. Sedacious also says, received and assembled the ESP-like M4 board that I'm calling the CP32M4, and of course found a small bug in the process. In Prens, checked the history of CircuitPython channel for leaks, pictures of that. And then lastly, with suggestions from C. Grover, I overhauled the design of the AA powered M4 board to have more chooch, integrate with the aforementioned tiny TFT, add mounting holes and a better fit into a case, remove redundant parts, and add more room for future add-ons. Once this board is off to the fab, I can get back to coding and working on my guide. This treadmill never... it's all caps, but I won't yell. This treadmill never stops, but I kind of love it. Which is the line that I really love. Okay, and then last but not least, as is usual, Summersoft says, oh, you reordered it on me. FRAM library is awaiting another review. Library cookie cutter fixed a couple issues I missed with the change in dependency generation that Carter found. For Adabot, command line params are almost done. Just need to remove extra code from last review. Can do proposed validator a la carte separately. Added a list of libraries to the bundle repo, which Adabot will update. And started working on checking if updates have been made to a library since the last release. We'll continue to work on it. No worries. Then more generally, updated welcome to CircuitPython guide with examples and bundle information, asking that some people go through it and provide feedback if there is any. This week, seeing if I can devise some .travis.yaml tests on a fork branch with cronning Adabot. Still plan on refocusing to frequency in. Didn't happen last week, or this week. Cool. Okay, and with that is status updates. Thank you everybody for taking the time to let us know what you're working on. Let's move straight into the weeds. We have one topic so far, but if you have other topics you want to talk about, post them in the text chat. Katney, do you have a weeds the thing, or do you have a status update thing?
It's more of a status update thing.
Okay.
I just want to say, if and this is in general, but also in response to Carter, if you have PRs that haven't gotten attention on libraries, or even on CircuitPython, I know this is, Scott will say the same thing. Mm-hmm. Feel free to ping us. If nobody has responded to your PR within 24 hours or something to that reasonable, let us know so we can take a look at it. and if nothing else, you know, find somebody who can actually provide. Discord is fine. Email is fine. You could ping on GitHub, but if we miss the ping on GitHub, Discord might be a better option. So that's, I guess I would say GitHub or Discord if you feel like GitHub is being missed, would be my suggestion.
Totally.
Okay, yeah, Discord's absolutely fine.
Yep.
So but we want to get through these pull requests. We want to make sure that things are addressed and that things are not sitting around for ages without any attention. So do not hesitate to let us know that we've let something slip. So that was all. I just wanted to point that out before we moved on. So thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Katney. That's always a good reminder. Okay, so we have a couple other in the weeds from Carter. So let's just jump into the NeoPixels one. Why don't you give us background there, Carter?
Okay, sure. I will link an issue. There's that. Hang on, let me do it that way. And this came about from someone, I can't remember, I think it was Discord, it may have been Discord or forums, but they were doing something where they were using RGB or RGBW, I can't remember what, they were creating that, and they were passing in the opposite tuple, like they were passing in a 3 tuple or a 4 tuple that didn't match what their pixel order was. And it just silently consumed it and spit back zeros. So what they saw from their point of view was, they wrote their program, they ran it, no errors, but also nothing on the NeoPixels.
Right.
Because it was sending out zeros. So I think if they had lit stuff up first, they would have seen stuff go from lit to not lit, and that would have been like action. But in this case, it was just pure blankness. So it's kind of a weird behavior that got created from this. So digging into it, you can look at the code and see how it obviously does it. And so it kind of pulls a thread on a bigger issue on like what we want to do in general for any of these mismatches. And we have a couple of ways of passing in the color info. You can pass it in via tuple or via int.
Right.
So there's the issue, and that's the general point of discussion with no real answer at this point.
Right. So one thing that jumps out at me is the 32-bit int row. We don't have 32-bit ints, so maybe we should just say, like, if it's over 24 bits, then we just say, like, oh, this doesn't work.
Yeah, it looks like it never uses anything above 24 bits right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it shouldn't, because we only have 31 bits.
Right. Oh, and that's why. So that's why you can't set the W. I sort of blindly assumed that if you had an RGBW, that the upper 8 bits, or I guess only 6 bits, could be used for it. But if that doesn't make any sense, this is only 6 bits.
Right. And I tried to. At some point, I tried to do fancy things of if all 3 components were the same, it would use white instead of the 3.
That's what it does now, yeah.
That's still in there. That's what I call the auto magic.
Oh, okay.
So I put in a quick PR that I think handles the tuple case, and you can tell me if I missed something there.
Yeah.
But you wanted me to just modify that to also then throw the same value error, if basically anything above bit 24 is set?
Sure. That works for me.
Because the other option would be to create some fancy behavior. Instead of just saying this is the wrong mismatch, throw an error, we could possibly do some automatic things. Like if they pass in a 4 tuple to an RGB, just ignore the W.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that it'll just mask, eventually it's going to, whoever's doing it is setting it up incorrectly and not getting the behavior they really want. So it's going to probably, it could lurk for a long time in their code until something really breaks. I kind of rather break it.
It'll lurk in their code until somebody tries to convert it to a RGBW, and then kaboom.
Right, then it'll do something different.
Do something weird.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
Yeah, I think throwing an exception is fine. if you
that's kind of the way. That's the way I would kind of lean too. I don't know if that's my only concern was that is that being too like not beginner friendly.
Well, I think the opposite way should work. If you provide a 3 tuple to a 4 tuple or an RGBW strip, you should just not use the W component, right?
Okay.
If you give an RGBW a 3 tuple,
right, then you should assume
assume
W is 0.
Assume that's a W equals 0.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Which I guess is different than the auto magic I added.
Correct.
So all right.
And I was wondering if there's been if that's kind of there for historical reasons, like there was a desire to have a bunch of legacy RGBW code work with RGBW NeoPixels, so people could just buy them, plug them in, change the creation, but then the rest of the code would just magically work. Just the W wouldn't really be used.
Right. That's why I would have it work that way, but
okay. So so basically, so if it's the question I guess comes up is, I guess RGBWs, are they always RGBW or can they be WGBR? In other words, in RGBs they can be different orders.
They can, but that's taken care of via the pixel order. So all that we're really discussing is 3 versus 4 values. The internal mapping is taken care of.
Right. We should standardize the order that you use from the library.
All right. So if a 3 tuple comes into a 4 tuple, you want it to go RGB.
Yeah.
Those are the values that get assigned for the three in the order.
Right. From the user's point of view, they specify RGB or RGBW.
Okay.
And it's the specifics of the mapping are done in the creation.
Okay.
Right.
So the only case it'll throw an error then is if you put 4 into a 3.
Yeah, I think that's fair because then you're providing extra information, and silently dropping it seems like a bad idea.
Okay. And similarly, if anything above the 23rd bit is set, throw the error at any time. Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah, the reason I did the auto magic for the 24-bit is that I was picturing people who were coming from the web world where like hex colors are kind of currency. And that's why I wanted to make white just work in my mind, or like gray work just work in my mind. But if we think that's a bad idea, we could rip that stuff out too.
I don't see any reason to take that out. I mean, the part where if all 3 are the same that you make it W.
Right.
Any reason to take that out?
I kind of I'm on the fence about that actually. It's kind of like, what if I actually wanted to set explicit RGB the same?
Well, that's what the tuple can do that.
Physically, can you set RGB and W?
Oh, you're right. Use the tuple input. Okay.
But I mean, what will the NeoPixel do if you set W? Will all 4 lights come on?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, but your code actually prevents that.
The auto magic only occurs with the integer input.
Is that right?
Right. The auto magic prevents you from having red, green, and blue on at the same value.
And only for the auto magic, but I mean for the integer, but also I thought it did it for the tuple as well.
No, it's only in the integer if.
Well, I know. For example, when you deal with RGB on the web, if you pass a single value, right? If you pass a single value, it makes all 3 the same on RGB. But what would you do with RGBW?
I don't know what you mean.
When you deal with colors on the web, in that other stuff, which is where we started with this whole thing. If you put 0F, for example, okay, in the color, #0F, it makes it 0F, 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 for the 3 tuple. But I wouldn't know what to do with the fourth one, because the fourth one should the white should be turned off, left off.
Right.
In that case.
Well, like the web doesn't have this notion of white being a separate thing. Like if there's a fourth component on the web, it's alpha. It's not white.
Yeah, right. It doesn't know about in the web. We don't have to deal with it because if you want white, you just put all Fs. Right. And that's that.
And that's exactly why I made it work with the auto magic.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because if you have RGBW, you want a better white than the white you get from having RG and B lit all at the same time.
Yeah. So you're saying that if it displays, if you send it all three the same, right?
Right.
All three Fs. If you send three FFs, integers, then it will give you the white. It'll turn the white on an RGBW.
Correct.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
But not if you do a tuple.
Right.
Right, because I feel like you're being more direct there.
If you did that, it would not. The auto magic would not happen.
Right.
Right.
Should it?
No. I see why. I see your logic now, Scott, and I think that's cool. Have it only be the end. That's the way the web people are going to be thinking, right?
Right. And that's how I think. That's why I implemented it.
And for weird cases where you're like, no, please don't.
Right.
Turn off my RGB and turn on the white. This is some weird thing I'm really trying to do. You just use the tuple.
Yeah.
I'll play around with the PR and make a change. It looks like it's a little. I have to think about trying to do it without making the code any bigger. So I'm just trying to think about how to do it best. So.
And Jerry, can you respond to that issue thread and summarize what we just discussed here? I guess.
Yep.
Since you're there. Okay. Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good.
Okay, Carter, you're next.
Next bullet. All right, easy one. I was just working on these altimeters and went to the design guide and noticed that there's no entry for altitude.
You should add one.
So we should add one. And how did you decide on what the standards were?
I cribbed them from the sensors for Arduino.
Okay. I'll take a look at that and I'll just chat with you with what I find to see if you're cool with what I choose.
Yeah, just pick whatever. The most important thing is to standardize the name and the units.
Correct. The name is pretty obvious. It'll be altitude, and then the units will be the tough thing.
I'd do meters since we do Celsius.
Yeah, I would hope SI, most definitely. Meters is the obvious. Okay, I'll ping you on that once I kind of think about it.
Okay, yeah. And do you know how to edit it? It's in the docs folder in the CircuitPython library.
So this would be a PR to the main CircuitPython repo, right?
Correct.
But it would just modify the docs. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I can do that.
Cool. And then, okay. Lastly, Carter again.
In VM, yeah, the non-volatile memory. I've got something I'm going to be working on where it's an Arduino. It's doing a CircuitPython version of an Arduino thing that stores values in EEPROM. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to figure out how we could do that in CP and came across that. And actually, I've never used that before and just kind of played around with it. And it kind of seems to work as advertised. But I was just a little curious what it's actually doing since we really don't have EEPROM on these.
So just like the internal file system, it's just reading and writing to the internal flash. So when you write a value at a particular, like it just has a byte range in internal flash, and when you modify it as if it was a byte array, it like loads the whole thing up, erases it, and writes the new value back in that block of internal flash.
So it's basically just a cute thing you've added to CP to emulate EEPROM, and you've set aside some space.
Yeah.
Program memory in the flash for doing this.
Yeah, it's for storing stuff without having to deal with a file system.
And it stays too.
Yes. Yeah, because it's in internal flash. But beware, I think it's crashing right now on 4X. At least on the 51.
It's just an array of it's an array of memory like any other. You can write to it, either if you're storing say a 32-bit value into it, you can store it byte by byte, or I don't know what the writes. You can only write to it. The API only accepts byte writes to it. Is that right?
Yeah. I understand it at that level, like how to actually interface to it.
Well, you can. I think you can write slices, and I would recommend that if it doesn't work.
I was just there was some work done by Hexstat that really confused me, because he was storing 4-bit 32-bit values in 5 bytes, and I never understood. I couldn't understand why.
Weird. I would just use struct.
Do that, right?
Yeah, struct is the way to go.
Right. A combination of struct and various other things for pushing stuff in and out. But
right.
I was just curious if that was and you have no issues with that module. It's seen aside, it doesn't really seem like it's been advertised much. It's just more advanced, I would say. And okay. I would suggest that if you are going to demonstrate how to do it, I don't know exactly what you're using it for, but try to minimize the number of writes you do, because it is like internal, like flash memory does wear out. Right. Right.
And so if it's some sort of like when you start up, you read it, and then when you're done, you write it. Like that's a good way to do it. Like just write once at the end.
It'll be a little more than that, but it's not going to be. It won't be heavy usage.
Yeah, I wouldn't log data to it or anything like that. That would be.
Why not? That's pretty low use.
It depends on if you're gonna write data. If you're gonna write like data logging, if you're gonna log data to it, I would recommend buffering. Because if you write every single byte, you're doing a full erase each byte you write.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's not smart enough to balance by any means. So
that's a little detail.
If you're doing like a logger, like you want to log every second, I would buffer like however many minutes you're okay losing if the power drops, and then write that whole kind of 2 minutes worth of data all at once, just to.
Yeah. So don't just have a simple like for loop that just writes them out one at a time, because it's going to erase every time. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, you will get to the like 100,000 erase limit or something. Like it's we're pretty bad about it in general with the internal flash system, but we had the benefit of like anything that's user inspired doesn't rapidly approach that like 100,000 or whatever million mark, whatever it is. But if you're doing something automated and you're just gonna let it sit, like that's where you'll hit the wear limits quicker, I think.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's work to do there. But yeah, you should use it. Just be aware that I think 4x SAMD51 is crashing hard right now.
I'll play around in 3x then.
Yeah, I think on 21 it should be fine. But there's a bug that I have been meaning to get back to. I was trying to detect when the stack overwrote the heap. And there's a pending PR that I just got distracted by all this USB stuff. But it tries to catch that case, and I discovered it doesn't still catch it. So yeah, it crashes pretty hard. So just beware of that.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And sorry? I think that's it.
Yep, that was it for my bullet list.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Dave.
I've been trying for like 20 minutes to get the audio to work.
Oh, yeah? Well, you got it now.
Yeah, when you guys were talking about the RGBW stuff.
Yep.
What if you just make a flag that you can set global to the library that says whether or not to use the auto magic light? You set the mode one way or the other.
Yeah, we could, but I think that just using a tuple as an alternative is fine.
Oh, if you want to hard specify, but if you want it to be auto magic and not lose behavior that you're depending on, just a flag would be easier that you can set. And some global mode that you can set. That way, trapped into one behavior.
Right, with the int values.
Right. Because if they expected the auto magic white to work,
right.
And on the auto magic white, why not just a little more adaptive algorithm? Take the minimum value of all three values when it's in auto magic mode, make that the white, and then subtract the difference from the other two. Then you'll actually get the right mixing.
Auto magic only works if they're all the same.
Right, but even if they're not all the same,
right.
You could,
if you had a flag.
You're talking about like tinting. You want to tint the real white.
Right. So if you have a mode flag for the way the library's interpreting it,
right.
You know, one would be don't screw with white at all. One would be, you know, the auto gray,
right.
And the other would be different, you know, offset.
Yeah. I would worry with that of just like the balance between the white component and the colors, but I think
not with NeoPixels, but in other cases I've done a lot of libraries, you know, with RGBW, and that's the logic I use.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good argument for it not being in this library and just having a separate library that does the auto magic white.
Or one that you hook in if you want in addition to.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because like the NeoPixel library and the related libraries are already kind of ginormous, and we do have the Pixel Buff that if anybody wants to pick up Pixel Buff, that would be awesome, but Roy's just been too busy to finish it. It's a class that's meant to share all of this logic across all of our RGBW sorts of pixels. So if you want to know more about that help on Pixel Buff would be very, very welcome.
Okay. Actually, I know I've told you privately, but I don't think everybody else has heard why I've been trying to track down Neil and get him involved with this, is because he has his own branch of MicroPython that he uses for massively real-time commercial type stuff. And he has everything that you wish you could do working in it.
Right.
Like async works right, and every bit of bit banging is all timer interrupt based. There's no spin locks anywhere in it, so it can be doing multiple bit banging at once. That requires, you know.
Yeah, that sounds super cool.
I've been trying to get him to see how he could merge that stuff in, and but he's like so busy that when he says I'll get back to you tomorrow, it could mean up to 2 years.
Yeah, I know how that is. It's good to be in demand.
So that's why I've been trying to get him pulled into one of these meetings.
Right.
Because I know there's just a bunch of pending things that, you know, are disabling interrupts, spin locks, and they sort of work and sometimes don't. But if he could get his base code in there, that takes care of all of that for you.
Totally. Well, we're always welcome to have new contributors and help them integrate their stuff into the CircuitPython repo. So yeah, keep bugging them. We'd happy to talk with them.
I mean, and this is proven in, you know, mission critical commercial type applications. It's not just something he's been screwing around with.
Right. Awesome. Well, Dave, I'm glad you got your mic working. And thank you for chiming in about the RGBW stuff as well.
And that actually comes from a bunch of libraries I've done to adjust colors in some libraries for Philips Hue stuff.
Well, that's a really good tip. So thank you. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up since we're over an hour, which is kind of usually what we try to stay under. Unless we have a lot of weeds. Okay, so let me take a time code just so people can see how long we went. Thank you as always to everybody who was able to make the meeting. The meeting happens on Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again to folks the European folks who had different time zones, which I'm really happy that some of you made it. this meeting was recorded. It will go up on Diode Zone, which is a PeerTube instance, which is really neat. I'll put it up there, and then I will also put it on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit. Check the playlist there for all of the past meetings. We also took notes with time codes, so if you want to skip around and find the things that you wanted to re-listen to, or if this is your first listen through, I assume you just listen to it all. But know that there are notes with time codes there that you can skim and figure out everything we talked about. And with that, I think next week should be just as normal time. We tend to switch up with US holidays, but we don't have those quite yet. So thanks again, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everyone.